Hello and happy Friday, everybody. And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts. The other host, Anthony Ihrig, is off bluegrassing today. He is touring and couldn't make it, but he sends his regards to everyone on this Friday afternoon. And joining us today, our special guest, joining us, I think, from her home in White Bear Lake, Katy
Yep.
Vernon.
Hello. I like the applause. That's lovely.
Yeah. Well, we are really excited to have you, and we have been trying to have you on the show for a long time. I feel like you and I have been kind of going back and forth about dates for
Yeah.
like
At
at least
least 2 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
so a while,
Yeah.
and
Thank you
so
for your
excited.
patience.
Well, these days, when Anthony and I started the show in March of 2020, artists weren't quite as busy as they are now, which is a good thing that artists are
Right.
busy with shows and other life
Yeah.
things. But it does mean scheduling sometimes takes a little longer, but it's worth the wait.
Yeah.
We're happy to have you here today, and folks are right on time for the party. It looks like Wiley was the first to join the party from Northern Virginia. Hi,
Hi.
Wiley. And Joe checking in from South Minneapolis. And Joe, it was great to see you. I saw Joe in real life. I usually see him every Friday here at Back Catalog, but it was nice to see you Tuesday at the Ice House, Joe. Connie joining us from Richfield. Chris, we're zoned in from Minneapolis Udapills Brewing
All
today,
right.
enjoying
I love
several
playing
flavors
at
of
Uda
beers.
Pills. That's one of
Yes,
my favorite places to play.
it's a great spot.
It is.
Cheers, Chris.
Best patio.
Yes. And Joni says,
Thank
love your
you.
shirt, Katie. And Katie,
Lady Gaga.
yeah, for those of you who are just listening and maybe not watching us live on YouTube, she's wearing a Lady Gaga shirt, and
Yes.
and you
I
said that that's from her 5-2 album.
Yeah, so my favorite album of hers in the last few years has been Joanne, and there's a really great documentary about the making of that. So I thought it was appropriate because we're discussing making albums, and it's a really good documentary. I think it's called 5'2". I could be wrong, but and she made it with Mark Ronson, the British producer, who actually just did the Barbie soundtrack, and it's just I love seeing behind the scenes of people making things and it's fun to hear songs that are so polished, as they kind of emerged, and her voice just raw and unvarnished is just so incredible. So it's a really,
Yeah.
really fun documentary.
Excellent. Good recommendation if you want to stay indoors this weekend. I know there's a heat wave going across the country, so maybe you want to stay inside with the AC and enjoy the Lady Gaga documentary. And it looks like we also have John joining us from South Minneapolis. Hi, John.
Oh, John, hi. He's the best.
And if you are new to the Back Catalog Listening Party, this is a show where we invite different guest artists to revisit old records with us. And we talk about the songs, answer your questions live, and we really want you to be a part of the conversation. So let us know where you're tuned in from. And it's a Friday, so maybe you're enjoying a beverage or a snack to kick
Hmm.
off your weekend. And it looks like
Yeah.
Anne is joining us as well. Hello, Anne. Happy Friday. And yes, it looks like yes, Joni
Mm,
says, also going to watch the Sinead O'Connor documentary this weekend. Yeah, been a hard week with losing her, and
yeah,
I actually had similar
yeah,
plans
tragic.
to watch that film.
Mm.
Um, so we'll take also all of your movie recommendations as well in the
Yeah,
comments,
I like
and
where this is heading. It's
we can
great.
have a whole weekend planned of different kinds of musical experiences. But because it's Friday, I would love to know again what you guys are enjoying for your Friday afternoon. Katie, are you enjoying a beverage or snack?
Just cold water, just
Well,
gotta hydrate.
in this heat, that is a wise thing. I think no matter what you all are drinking,
Right.
it's always good to hydrate as well.
Yes.
I'm enjoying uh, a rosé from the very
Ooh,
prestigious box that's sitting in my kitchen, whatever that
nice.
might be. So
Fancy.
cheers, everybody, and thank you
Cheers.
for joining us today. And
I have lots of fun stickers on my water, so
oh, I
that
love
that makes
that.
it a little more exciting. These are my puppy
Some
dogs.
dogs, yes.
There. I do like making stickers, and then my kid makes stickers.
Oh,
So
so these are
she
handmade
sells.
stickers.
These are all stickers that my daughter Daisy designs, and you can go and follow Artsy Daisy V on Instagram. She makes really good stuff.
Artsy Daisy V, and we'll put that in the comments so people can check that out as
You
well.
know, got to promote the kids.
Exactly. Well, we're excited to talk with you about your music today, Katy. And for folks in the Twin Cities, they're probably familiar with your music or have heard your name about town because you've been making music in lots of different
Hopefully.
capacities for many years.
Yeah.
And I'd love for folks, though, who are less familiar, maybe you could give the brief origin story of Katy
Yes.
Vernon, like, where you grew up and how you fell into making this kind of music, and in particular, where this record fits into that.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm British, so hence I have an accent. So, I was born and raised in London, England. I left there when I was 21 because I met and married a man from Iowa, as did Ellen. And I ended up living in the Twin Cities, which I love. And I had always been a songwriter, kind of just, messing around. Just even as a kid, I just always loved singing and songwriting and was in a band in the late 90s in Minneapolis called the Camdens. And we made a record, so that was a ton of fun. But then I took a pretty extended break and I had kind of back to back babies and I stopped writing original music for quite a while. And so this album that we're discussing today was such a relaunch into just kind of prioritizing writing music and performing again. And all of the talented musicians that I'd kind of gotten to know during my time playing in Minneapolis, so many of them had said to me, like, you should make your own record. And so I kind of leaned on them all and invited them to, kind of put their money where their mouth was and make a record with me. So that's how we ended up. And it completely relaunched a music career that I almost thought maybe I wouldn't pursue, at some point in my life. So it
Yeah.
was a real Kickstarter in every way.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just looking back because I was trying to think about when we first met in the Twin
Mm.
Cities, and I realized I'm pretty sure that the first time we met was at Honey, um, which was a great venue in Minneapolis. And I was playing a show with Julia Douglas and Ben Cookfelds, and you came up to me after the show. I think you were like maybe starting or had been working
Hmm.
on a record with Kevin Steinman, which I think was
Yeah.
this record,
Yeah.
and I had just recorded an album with him.
Yeah.
And but you introduced yourself and said hi, and it
I
was
was so nervous to meet you.
and I was, but I just thinking back, I was like, oh, that's so wonderful because, like, yeah, I didn't know you before that. You weren't playing music around
No,
town. And so, like, um, it was wonderful thinking back that, oh, I knew Katy when she was just
you
starting off
did.
this chapter
Yeah.
of her career. Obviously,
Yeah.
still a
Yeah.
chapter, but
It was a very separate chapter. And, I think, it's really interesting talking to lots of musicians that, become parents or you move, you change jobs, all these huge life transitions sometimes derail a music career for a while. And I just think, um, to see people step back in, whether it's music or whatever chapter in their life, that they just dive in again to you can always start
mhm,
something new. You can always, it's never too late. You don't just give up.
right.
And so before I forget, it was a huge launch for me. But even then, on that record, it was kind of a journey to really finding my voice, playing the ukulele too. I took
Hmm.
that up, so it's half and half. Half of that album is all on the guitar and half is the ukulele, which was like my brand new baby, when I made that record.
Which
So,
is funny because I think nowadays most people think of you primarily as a
yeah.
ukulele player.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. The ukulele has really opened up such a huge kind of musical world to me. And to think that I didn't even play that instrument, back in, 2010 or whenever it was, I mean, I've been playing for about 12 years. So 2011, I think, is when I took it up. So yeah, it's
Wow.
weird to think. And it just made me feel so much more independent, even though everything we'll talk today, was such a group effort. But it made me feel like a completely independent singer-songwriter. And I had never been that way, until I picked up the ukulele.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
I think folks are ready for music because, it's been a week in all kinds of ways.
Yeah,
And
I know.
heat, losses, work, power outages, all of it. So I think we need to kick off our weekend with some music. So the first track you picked to feature from the record we're going to talk about, which by the way is called Before I Forget. It came out in 2012. And the first song you picked to feature from it is Peter. What can you tell us about this song?
Yeah, so Peter is the name of my brother. He's my big brother. There's three of us in the family, and he's the oldest. And he was born with very severe physical disabilities. He has cerebral palsy, which is a very wide-ranging condition. Some people are incredibly high functioning that have cerebral palsy. Peter has always been nonverbal, wheelchair bound, and has very extensive health needs. He lived at home with us until he was about 16, and then we'll talk a bit more with other tracks about the death of both of my parents during that time in my life. But because of all those circumstances, he moved into full-time care, and he is still in full-time care in London. And so this is really just kind of a love song to him and to anybody who can't verbally communicate with a loved one, and kind of how that feels. And but it's an upbeat song, so that's the weird thing about, I call myself a singer of sad songs on a happy instrument. That is absolutely like displayed in a song like this, that is an upbeat song about a difficult subject. Also, I think people will be interested to know the harmonica that you hear at the beginning is Dan Israel. So that's kind of a
past guest here on the Back
little
Catalog
thing.
Listening Party.
Yeah, Twin Cities legend. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, let's give it a listen. Now, this is Katy Vernon with Peter, and here it is.
When you see my face, you smile. Have you been listening all the while? Do you know me? Can you show me? What are you thinking in there? I hope you know that I care. It's not easy, believe me. Do you know who I am? And if you do you wonder where I am? Do you know who I am? And if you do you wonder? Wish we had some way to share. I ask myself, but I don't dare. What's inside you? What can I do? Do you know who I am? And if you do you wonder where I am? Do you know who I am? And if you do you wonder?
All right. Katy Vernon with Peter from her 2012 release, Before I Forget, which we are revisiting today on the back catalog listening party with Katy Vernon joining us live.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and
so weird to sit and just listen to your own song.
I know you never
Um,
do it, right? I mean, I
no,
never
you
do.
never do it, and it's so nice to have an outlet to talk about older music because it's such a process, and this industry is so focused on what's new all the time. It's really a lovely opportunity that you've created here, and it's funny for me to hear that Simon husband singing backing vocals, doing all the oohs.
Uh-huh.
Simon continued on to be in my band forever, but he didn't actually play keys on this record.
Oh, who did?
It was Kevin Steinman. So I'm
Oh,
pretty sure. I gotta make sure I get it right. I made sure that I pulled my stuff here. Yeah, Kevin produced it, as he produced your album too. He played piano, pump organ, did backing vocals, and the percussion. So he did a lot
uh,
on that record.
oh, Kevin
Yeah,
is a real talent. And for those of you who don't know,
yeah.
Kevin Steinman, for many
Mhm.
years lived here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, but now lives in Norway. And like his uh he was on, what was it, The Voice in Norway, or
Oh,
some
was
it was some
he?
kind of
Oh,
show,
that's
like, yeah, and
amazing.
like did really
He's
well
so
there. But
talented.
he's a
Yeah, he's
great
so good.
singer and multi-instrumentalist and songwriter, and has
Yeah.
again produced one of my records and one of Katie's. So
And Sarah
that's
Morris's.
right,
Sarah
Sarah
and
Morris.
I were just chatting the other day and reminiscing. He was very busy that all around 2012. He did all of us,
And
kind of in
and I
close
don't know,
succession.
when he did your record, was he were you doing it from his house, or did you go into a
Yes.
different studio space?
Nope, I was in his home, and so there were when I did vocals, there was a mattress, with like a sheet over it,
Like
to kind
curtains,
of
yeah.
soften the room. Yeah, and that was also when I met Jillian Ray because she came in and because she knew him, and she came in and played violin on several of the songs.
Well, that's what's so amazing is he got such
Yeah,
amazing sounds, which is just a good reminder. We've talked about all kinds of records here on the show. This is our 171st episode, I guess.
oh,
So we've
yeah,
revisited all kinds of records from artists from all over the world, and we've heard albums that are done at like crazy high end, major label studios, to people who
yeah.
are doing everything themselves, to everything in between. And I have to say, um, especially with everything Kevin did, it was amazing. He got these sounds that just sounded like a pro studio in every
Hmm.
capacity, and
Yeah,
especially when you couldn't play really live together, everything was individually tracked, which is
yeah.
amazing.
I know, crazy.
So
Mhm.
John was saying how much he loved hearing Dan Israel on the
Yeah,
harmonica, which sounded
yeah,
great. And then Joe had a question. He asked if your brother Peter, who that song was about,
yeah.
asked if
That's a
does
lovely
Peter react
question.
to music?
Yes, Peter is incredibly he loves music. So the thing with Peter is, he doesn't have language, but he is so responsive, and he reacts amazingly to music. He lives in a hospital in London. He's lived there for 30 years, so they all know him really, really well. It's his home, and they have a room that is just all music and lights, and that's like his favorite place to go in. So he can very much, he reacts negatively. He can make it known when he's not happy, and then he very much reacts when he's happy. And it does feel weird for me to sing him that song. I've done concerts at his home, and I've also we do this. We like FaceTime every Friday,
Mm,
and I talk to him and sing to him. Um, because of the lyrics, it feels a little strange to sing that song to him because it is tinged with kind of such, weight and sadness.
mm,
And I don't want to be the one to bum him out. So,
mhm.
so yeah, I think he responds to the upbeatness of the music. I get a bit self-conscious sometimes about the lyrics.
Mm.
But I played it to him. He seemed to like it.
Well, you were nice enough. You actually have some photos that you shared with us. Do you mind if we
Yeah.
share some of these?
No. Yeah, I can't
Okay.
remember what I
So
sent you, so this is fun for me too.
so
Oh
uh
yeah. There he
so
is.
we have, so that's, I'm assuming that's you and him. when you were
Yeah.
kids?
And somebody random's guinea pigs. I do not know. He has a little guinea pig on him as well. And I don't know whose guinea pigs those are, but I do love the dress I'm wearing.
Oh,
So yeah, that's Peter. And I'm just a few years younger than him. There's another brother in the middle. So I'm the youngest of three.
so and I love, by the way, this photo of the two of you because it's so sweet. But
It's cute.
it's also this dress you're wearing
I
as
know.
it's like a dress you would wear now if it was an
Oh
adult
yeah.
size. That's what
I
I love. It's like really little
yeah,
Katy Vernon. Like
I know.
it's like you're already fully formed, Katie. It's great.
Yeah, I was saying before the show started, kids come out the way they come out, and yes, it's a fabulous dress, and I would love to wear it today.
Well,
Mhm.
you talk about sort of, kids come out kind of with their, identities and personalities right away. Were you
Yeah.
singing like from a young age? Were you
Oh
always singing
yeah,
growing
yeah.
up?
I drove my parents nuts. I mean, literally, they would turn around and be like, "Katie, be quiet. We're almost to our destination or something." And I'd be like, "Katie, be quiet. We're almost at our destination." I mean, I was a nightmare, and just a natural born, little show off, and grumpy if I didn't get my way. I mean, all the things that I saw reflected, in my own kids that I was like, oh my gosh, that's how I was. I
Yeah.
was just always, wanting to put on a show. I love playing outside shows because I feel like I'm in a musical, and that's kind of that's been my fantasy, my whole life. And I will say, then the serious side of that is that, I also, after my parents died, I mean, I've just had kind of grief and depression has been such a big part of
Mhm.
my life, but this little, sparkly musical joy, I think has really seen me through it. I think
Yeah.
everybody goes through tough stuff in life, and resilience is an amazing thing that, if you're lucky, you have it,
Mhm.
just deeply, ingrained in you. And I'm just really lucky that I've had this kind of inner spark of joy that, even in the really, really tough times in my life, it's just music inside of me, and the need to, I don't know, just keep going.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all tied together,
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful for that.
And I love that um your connection and to Peter and your
Yeah.
family has continued in this way. And here's a more
Oh,
recent photo
yeah.
of the two of you,
Yeah. So we do
FaceTiming
that
probably,
every
right?
week.
It's
Yeah,
so
and you
lovely.
can see from his smile, he knows my voice, no matter what hair color I show up with, he knows me.
Mhm.
And he does have kind of micro expressions and ways of showing that. And he's a very well looked after, guy.
Mhm.
He's doing as well as I think he could be. I have a lot of guilt, that I don't live in the same
Mhm.
city as him, that he doesn't live in my home.
Mhm.
But he has very complex health needs, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to look after him. So
Yeah.
he's in a good place, and I get to see him every week like this. And pre-pandemic, I was going back to the UK every year, which I hope to resume very
Yeah.
soon. So
Yeah. Well, and we're so lucky to have some of this technology to stay more connected
amazing.
with
I
everybody.
know. Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Especially with someone that you wouldn't be able to like just converse with on the phone. So it's really
Yeah.
special to be able to do that.
Yeah. No, I bought a special device that, I literally just pop up and say hi, and he doesn't have to press any buttons. He doesn't have to do
Oh,
anything. It's
nice.
just, it's almost just like a little, I don't know what you'd even call it, but it just is a little screen in his room that
Nice.
I show up on. So it's very nice to be able to do that.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, I see on your screen, Katie, that behind you, you have all kinds of amazing things. You have your
I have
ukulele
so
collection,
much.
which keeps
I have a
growing.
lot of junk. It
It,
does.
it breeds
Yeah, I
like
try not
bunnies,
to.
right? Yeah.
I know they do. They do. Well, when they're so cute, it's like red and sparkly. I couldn't
Well,
resist.
and they're little, right? So you're like, oh, I
Yeah,
don't
they're
have that
little.
many.
Yeah. We
um,
don't count. Someone asked me the other day how many I had, and I'm like, how rude. We
yeah.
don't count. We don't count how many we have.
No, 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 no. It doesn't matter. Well, again, if you just tuned into the back catalog listening party, we're talking with Katy Vernon, who's joining us today to revisit her 2012 release, her debut solo album, Before I Forget. And the title, Before I Forget. Is there anything you want to say about why you called it
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually was reading an article in Oprah magazine because, that's kind of where my life was. I was such a stay-at-home mom, and I'd kind of, lost my mojo a little bit about being creative and just believing in myself. And so, I was flipping through an O magazine, and I read an article that just touched me so deeply, because it was about a woman's relationship with her mother, who had Alzheimer's. And she wanted to kind of ask all of these questions, and kind of do everything they could relationship wise before her mother forgot. And the article was called Before I Forget. And it was just so poignant and beautiful. And I just thought, I want to put this collection of songs into the world, before I forget, the stories that I
Mm.
have about my parents. It really was a tribute to my parents, and kind of a love letter to Peter, and just kind of everything I wanted to say at that moment. And it also was a little bit of kind of an in-joke to myself that I just learned how to play the ukulele, and who knows, I might forget. So I should probably record everything, before I forget how to do it. So kind of like everything I do, it had one foot in very serious topics, and one kind of lighthearted. I'm very serious as a person, but I always want to, not take myself seriously. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that's kind of a dual meaning behind it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we want to hear another track from this record. So the next
Yeah.
one that you picked to feature on today's show is Empty House. Is there anything you want to say about this before we take a listen?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much one of the heaviest kind of songs subject-wise. This is about the aftermath of losing my mom. So my mom got sick when I was 9, and she died when I was 12. And I was given a book in my early 20s, called Motherless Daughters. And it took me a while to read because I'm like, this is so heavy. Why would I want to read this? But I read it, and it was an amazing book that to this day, I just really, really treasure. And it was many stories from women who had lost their mothers as all different times in their lives, but young. And the intro had a whole kind of line that really stuck with me that said, losing a mother in a family is like an empty house. It echoes on and on. And I just thought, that's exactly my experience. My mother's presence was massive in our family before and after she died, and none of us spoke about it. Like nobody, we all tiptoed around each other, my brothers, my dad. And when you go through something traumatic as a family, I think you think other families would deal with it and talk about it, but I think more often than not, as a family, you don't talk about it. You don't want to upset each other, and you don't know what to say. You just stay in your own little silos of grief and pain. And so that sentence really, really touched me. And for the first and only time, I think, ever, I put a whole sentence that inspired me into a song. So that lyric, the entire sentence is in the chorus.
Mm. And how old were you when you lost your mother?
12.
12. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
and I mean, there's never an easy time to lose a parent, but I mean, at that
No.
age, it can be
Yeah.
it's such a tough time of transitions
Yeah.
anyway
It was a very
that's when you
pivotal age.
rely on the stability
Yeah.
of parents. So
Yeah, absolutely. And my dad, more than had his hands full with 3
mhm.
kids, one of whom, had very extensive special needs, and the other one who was just really needy. So, yeah, it was a lot. And so I put all of that into this song. This song is played on the guitar for anyone keeping count of
So
what
the
songs
last
are
one
on
was the ukulele
ukulele.
one, and
Yes.
this one's the
Yeah.
guitar one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 for 1 so far here on the back
Yeah.
catalog. But
Yeah.
this is one of the guitar tunes. This is Katy Vernon with Empty House here on the back catalog listening party.
Were the feelings much too great that we couldn't communicate? It wasn't that you didn't care,
Katy Vernon with Empty House here on the back catalog listening party from her 2012 release, Before I Forget, which we are revisiting today on the show with Katy Vernon joining us live. And my usual co-host, Anthony Ihrig, who's on
See
tour
that?
right now,
Yeah.
says rainy day here in Malacca. So I thought I would tune in. And he
Mm,
said the tune was very touching, Katie, and wished he could
oh,
be there. So we miss you too,
yeah.
Anthony, but I'm
Have a
glad you got
great
to catch
show,
that song.
Anthony.
Yeah. And
A huge part of that song was Jillian Ray.
I was just
So,
gonna say, I heard the
oh yeah,
violin and I was
right?
guessing
I
that was
know.
Jillian. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. And that was my intro to her. Kevin was just like, I had said, I'd love to have some violin on the song. And he was like, well, do you know Jillian? And I didn't. So I met her at their home, and it was the start of a lovely friendship. So she's
Yes.
amazing. And then also on that same song, you can't hear it as much because Jillian, I think she's such a forward part of that song. But is Dan Lewan on cello.
Mm.
And he plays cello with, well, he did, I don't know if he still does, with Jeremy Messersmith. And I was a fan, and Kevin had a connection to him. So he was going to play the CD release. Everybody involved on the record played the CD release, including Dan Israel and Jillian Ray. I had them play with their bands at that show, but Dan couldn't make it, and I still to this day have never met him. So 11 years ago, he was on my record, but I've never met him.
Well, speaking of the release show, I don't know if these are photos
Yeah,
from that
they
or if they're
are.
just from
Yeah.
that time. Okay, so we
No,
have
that's from the release
that's
show.
you.
Yeah.
You're playing a guitar, so
Yeah,
evidence
playing
that
guitar, and I do still sometimes play the guitar, just not as much. And that guitar I actually purchased at the beginning of the recording process because I had a pretty junky old guitar, and I felt like I deserved a new one. And Kevin Steinman gave me the thumbs up and said, "You absolutely do deserve to buy yourself a guitar." So he gave
there
me
you
the
go.
thumbs up on buying that one.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, it was at Wild Times, which is I guess no longer there, but it's opposite where the KJ's Hideaway is. So it's that
Yeah.
corner of
And right next
well,
to
you
the
know that.
Palace Theater.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say you know that neighborhood very well,
I
Ellen. That is
do.
and you can see Paul Odegaard there. Him and I still play together. There's Terry Isaacson on guitar, who played on the record, and then Clay Williams
Mm.
in the red shirt. And he continued to play with me for my next two records as well. So he was in the band for 10
And
years,
by the
which
way,
is
I love your
amazing.
Union Jack tights that match your
Yeah, aren't they
ukulele
fun?
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah, I went a
then
bit all out. And there's Jillian
yeah, Jillian Ray.
playing. Yeah, it was a great night. And she played with her band. I love this picture because it looks like I have a ukulele on my dress,
Yeah,
and
I was
that
gonna say.
would have been amazing. That is
But it's
actually just
not,
a
it's
little
just
bag.
positioned, right?
It's just a
Yeah.
little bag that I was
Oh,
given. But I should just make that into a dress because it looks great.
yeah, for sure.
Maybe I
Oh, there
still
we
will.
go.
And here we
Action
go. So
shot.
action shot. I love it. This is me singing with Jim Walsh. So many people in the Twin Cities will recognize him. He's a music writer and a songwriter, performer, and he ran for many years on and off an event called the Hootenanny, which
So
I
amazing.
met many songwriters through, and was such a huge part of me stepping into my role as someone who is accompanying myself. Because, like I mentioned, for many years I wrote songs, but I wasn't comfortable playing the guitar and accompanying myself. And so one or two songs at a time, kind of Jim helped me get out of my shell, which was a huge part of then, continuing and making records.
Yeah, and
So
I love that he's
he
wearing
played the event too.
A Taylor Swift
I
shirt
know.
when it wasn't as cool as it is
It
now,
wasn't as
so
cool. No.
ahead of
He's
his time
always had a good ear for good music. Yeah.
for good songs, that's right.
Yeah.
And then another one, it looks like we also
Yeah.
see Simon on the
Simon
keyboards.
Husbands. And so, I mentioned on the record, he is doing backing vocals, but by the time we started to play the songs live, he started playing the keys, and he's so fantastic. And, we still play together to this day. He's in my ABBA tribute band.
Oh,
So,
well,
yeah,
it's
so we're
funny you
still,
mentioned your ABBA tribute band because I was noticing on that song there was a lot of vocals and harmonies and stuff. And
Yeah.
that's something have always been a big fan of because you've sung in other
Yeah.
bands and whatnot. On that
Yeah.
last track, was that you double
It
track?
was me.
So
Yeah, that was all me. And Simon didn't actually sing on that song. I think just because it didn't feel right to have a
Mhm,
male voice, and it also didn't, to be honest, feel right to have anyone else's voice because it's
mhm.
just so deeply personal. And I think I'm less self-conscious about things like that now. But back then, it was like very precious to me to be singing about my mom. And it was fun, having the opportunity. Obviously, in real life, you can't clone yourself and singing
Right.
back vocals. So it was a fun experiment, and Kevin really let me just kind of experiment with that too.
Excellent. Well, and this is a good opportunity to mention that in addition to playing your own music out, you also are in, as you mentioned, an ABBA tribute band where you get to
Yeah,
sing lots of harmonies with
so
Jenny
fun.
Russ and other
Yeah,
folks.
Jenny Russ
Um,
and Jenny Case. Jenny
mhm,
Case is an amazing musician around town, and she plays with us too. And so she can sing those kind of third parts on the harmonies.
mhm.
And then David Russ is our drummer, and he has an incredible voice that he sings a lot in the band. We're called ABBA Salutely Fab. And we are playing quite a lot around town. So if you follow my socials, you'll see it also on my website. There is a page dedicated to Absolutely Fab. And we have a lot of shows in August, including the State Fair. We're making our
Mm.
State
The
Fair
Minnesota
debut.
State Fair.
And
That's worth traveling to.
I have my little ABBA mice friends here because that's another weird little hobby that I
Okay.
have.
So many things to talk about. So first of all, I
Too
want to make
many
sure
things, I
that
know.
folks know that if they want to follow where Katy is playing, whether it's
Yep,
with the ABBA Tribute Band or her own original music, that you want to go to katyvernon.com
yep.
and when you're there, you can also buy her music and including the record we're talking about today. Before I forget, she still has CD copies of this. I know you had to repress them, but you have them available.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, I had to repress them, but yes, now I have plenty.
Which
So
is
if you
good.
need
Yeah.
them,
So,
yeah,
if you like what you hear, and again, we were talking about the audio quality of these songs, and I think we say this every week, but um, we're hearing the version before it goes through the YouTubes on
mm,
our headphones, and I have to say
yeah,
it sounds fantastic. I have a CD copy, so I know how good it sounds in that quality. So if you want to hear that, either do that or download the high res files. I think
yeah,
are you on Bandcamp too? Can you
yes,
people get stuff that way
yes,
too? So you can
yes.
download the high res files or order that CD directly from Katy. And when you're there, you can also check out her scrap mice. So show those mice again. These are
Here's
handmade by
some. These are
Katy.
the ABBA. These are the ABBA mice. And I thought you could get a sneak preview of I'm going to enter the state fair with my Adams family mice.
Oh my
So here
goodness.
they are.
And we
So
should mention that
lots of
you
little
make
buttons
them
and stuff.
on commission, right? So like if
I
someone has
do.
a mouse they want made for a friend or for
Yeah.
themselves, they
Well,
can
I
have
started making them just as a hobby in 2020. Like you said, we all had some time on our hands. And so I started making them as a hobby. And then somebody said, "Can you please make my wife?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. This is a hobby. I don't know." And then he sent me a photo of her, and she had really funky clothes and she had purple hair. And I'm like, I can make that. If it's something distinct.
yeah.
And so I have literally made over 200 mice, and including John, who's watching today. So yeah, they're just a kind of a little labor of love. Yay, John Lewis! I made him. And he's a stylish guy and he's a musician, so it was like there was something to hang on to and kind of make. And I entered them in the fair last year. I made a Wizard of Oz mouse collection and they got ribbons. So it's taken on a life of its own, and it's just a really fun little hobby. So if you want one, you can order it via my website because
Awesome.
people asked every now and then. So I'm like, sure,
Excellent.
let's do it.
Well,
Yeah,
we
it's
want to
fun.
mention too that if you're just listening to the show and you're not seeing the visuals that are accompanying the show, we'll
Yeah,
have some photos of both the photos we were talking about earlier with her band and with her brother Peter. And then also maybe we can get a scrap mice photo up there. We'll definitely have links to Katie's website
yeah.
and all the stuff. And speaking of arty things, and this, of course, explains why her daughters are such great artists. Is Katy is a great artist, and we've also shared the link to her daughter Daisy's Instagram in the comments.
Thank
So
you.
so if you
Nice.
want to, I think we have it right here. Yeah. So if
That's
you want to
awesome.
get those handmade stickers that she was showing earlier on her water bottle, you can do
She'll
that
like
too.
that. Yeah.
So lots
She
of
makes
ways to
amazing
support.
earrings too.
Lots of ways to support artists, independent artists, and it's a wonderful thing to do to make sure to fuel the artist economy here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Yeah.
And
it's a-
the
it's a
time is
struggle.
wasting away, and we have to
Oh
get
my
a
gosh.
couple more songs in here before we go. So this next song that you picked to feature is called Better for You. Is there anything you want to say about the song before we take a listen?
So this is a love song about my husband, and he jokes that every single song I write is about him, which is not true. But this one is about him. And basically, we met traveling 30 plus years ago. And your listeners, I could send you the link actually.
Actually,
there's a news story about us. Yeah, there it is. So CNN Travel interviewed us both at the end of last year, and so this tells the whole story better than I can, because it's kind of a long story. But we met traveling, and he when we started to kind of figure out if we were dating and stuff, he said, I have kind of a whole list of things I'm looking for, in a wife, and I don't think you're any of the things on that list. Which was a bit devastating, but I wrote a song about it. Maybe I'm not what you were looking for, but I think I'm going to be good for you. That's kind of the gist of the song.
Well, your husband's
He's
watching right now, and
you.
I obviously it worked. Everything worked out just fine.
It did work out very well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll take a listen to it right now. This is Katy Vernon with Better for You here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Nothing on your list, nothing you had wished. Push me away, tell me not to stay, not to tie you down, but I'm still around. I'm better for you than you know. I'm better for you than you know. See all my faults and the things I lack, but I'll be away. You kiss me back, no matter what you say. I know someday you'll hold me close. You just don't know. I'm better for you than you know. I'm better for you than you know. Don't be so sure what you're looking for. You can't be sure enough. When it comes to love, you just hold on tight. If it feels right, don't push me away. You know I'll stay. I'm better for you than you know. I'm better for you than you know. I'm better for you
All right. Katy Vernon here on the back catalog listening party with Better For You from her 2012 release, Before I Forget, which we are revisiting today on the back catalog listening party with Katy Vernon joining us live. And it's nice that her husband's tuning in as well, because that song about their love story. I shared a link
Mm,
to that CNN article
awesome.
about their story in the comments, so folks can check that out. Also, I want to mention that if you like what you hear, and maybe you already have Katy Vernon's CD, and you have all of the scrap mice, you have all the stuff already. Well, you can still support Katie's music, or if you don't do, you don't want things in physical format, that's fine. You can throw something in her tip jar via PayPal or Venmo. And I just put that in the comments, so you can
Thank
check that
you.
out as well, because we want to fuel the next Katy Vernon record. And
Yes.
I know you've been busy not just performing and making scrap mice, but you also you're putting together a new band. Is that right?
Yes, I'm very excited. So I'm starting a band. Well, it's already started, but we have a couple of shows coming up. So we're going to make our debut on September 23rd at the third annual Ghost Notes Block Party. So it's going to be in South Minneapolis. All of the information is at dissonance.org, and Dissonance is a group that I've been a part of now for a few years, and we put on events that are always kind of tied with mental health discussions and resources. And also, if people are in the recovery community, we always make sure that all of our events are sober, not because you have to be sober to attend, but just to make it a welcoming space for
Mm-hmm.
all. And we have our own YouTube series, which is very cool. If people are not
Mm-hmm.
local and want to get a taste of what we do, Dissonance is the name of the organization, and we have a YouTube series called Sessions. So if you type in Sessions, you can look for Charlie Parr, Chastity Brown, any of those episodes should pop up, and you can see kind of what we do, which is just have discussions about mental health and creativity, and how those two things do not need to be separate.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to be unhealthy and unhappy to be creative, and you
Right.
shouldn't suffer for your art. I think we need to get rid of that
Mm-hmm.
kind of mindset that you have to suffer to make art, because you shouldn't. Everybody
Right.
deserves to be healthy and happy.
Amen to that. And
Yeah.
we'll make sure that link to Dissonance is part of our show
Mm,
notes. If you,
thank
again,
you.
are just listening to the show, or maybe you're in transit while you're doing other things or making dinner, we archive all of our shows at backcatalog.listeningparty.com. And we include, in addition to having the link to this YouTube show, we also include links, photos. So we'll make sure we have links to Dissonance and all that
Perfect.
stuff, so you
And I
can
should
check that out.
mention the name of the new band. I think I didn't do that.
Yes.
I have always performed, since Before I Forget, and for then, the 11 years since, I've just performed under my name, Katy Vernon. And I decided it was time for kind of a band name and kind of a restart. And this is going to be a heavier sound. It'll be the same, same songwriting by me, but it will be a heavier rock band, and we're going to be mostly women. It's going to be just one guy in the band, and we're going to be called Favorite Girl, favorite with a
All right.
U, because I'm British.
That's awesome. So favorite girl. And
Yes,
again, you can, Minnesota folks can see you perform September 23rd as part of this Dissonance block
yes,
party. And for folks who don't live in the Twin Cities or nearby, you're also doing a live stream on August 6th with our good
yeah,
friend Galen Lee and past
yes.
guest. So,
Yeah, she's incredible, and I've been lucky enough to perform with her and meet her a few times, and we're online friends, and she's just amazing. So yeah, I'm really happy to do something similar to this, but with her
excellent. Yeah, but performing. So that will be great.
performing.
Um,
Yes,
And so if you want to find out more about that, you can go to katyvernon.com or follow Katy on all the socials. And we're
yes,
going to have one more song. But before we do, I want to make sure that I thank all of our Patreon supporters. These are the folks that have kept the show going for 171 episodes, over 3 years of every week, having different guest artists join us live and torturing them by making them listen to their old records. And I want to thank this wonderful community that has made this possible for my co-host Anthony Ihrig and I to continue this show and these important conversations and sharing great art that we don't want to make sure that no one ever forgets. So we want to thank Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, David, Sarah C, CJ, and Wiley, and maybe you. If you want to join our Patreon community, there's a link that's going on the screen. We'll put it in the comments. And basically, this is a way of showing your support for the show. And when you do that, there's special perks like private Zoom after parties with some of our guests and live streams. And we're right now in the process of printing our inaugural Back Catalog Listening Party pint glasses, so that when you enjoy your water or your cocktail or your beer or whatever on your or iced coffee on your Friday afternoon, you can enjoy in a Back Catalog Listening Party glass. So you can find out about that there. But again, we want to thank all. So many of them are joining us today and are our regular party goers here, and we're so grateful that these are the folks that also have been stocking up their collections with all kinds of great records from our guests. So big thanks to these music champions. But even if you're not a Patreon supporter, we appreciate you being here for the conversation, because this is what it's all about. It's about sharing new music, talking about it, and enjoying it together, which even when it's virtual is really special. And we're so lucky to have you here. And we're lucky to have Katy here. And before she goes, I want to make sure we get to one more song. So the last song that you picked to feature today is 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Which feels apropos for you know, Friday.
We're almost at 5. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Is there anything else?
Yeah, well, 5 o'clock, it was, I mentioned, part of my work with Dissonance is that we do events that are sober, just to make sure that they are welcoming to all. And I realized that I had an issue with alcohol dependency, and I was kind of overdoing it. And you can hear in this song that I just tried to attempt to kind of rein that in for myself. And the weird thing for me is that it still took me a few years after I wrote this song. This song is so self-aware, and yet I still kind of had a problem with alcohol for a few more years after this. But, it's not in any way a commentary or a judgment on anybody else. It was just my journey with alcohol, and eventually that had to end. It just wasn't working for me. And this song is just part of the journey towards realizing that for myself. So, yeah.
Well, let's take a listen to it together. This is Katy Vernon with 5 o'clock here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Take me out of this misery, I'm only hurting myself. I know it loves company, but it isn't good for my health. And the same words keep going round and round in my mind. Never sane words, and they usually unkind. Might need just a little help to turn the other cheek. I know it's a sign of strength, but you got me feeling so weak. And the same words keep going round and round in my head. Never same words, and the better left unsaid. Oh, I know I must change. Oh, I must stop. 'Cause 5 o'clock somewhere seems to come a little earlier each day. And the sorrows I've been trying to drown never seem to float away. I tell myself that it's no big deal, whatever gets through the day, but I don't know another way to feel. I guess that isn't okay, 'cause the same words keep going round and round in my mind. Never
And
I
it
love
ends on the word stop,
I
which I
love
was so
it.
proud of.
I love it. That was really great. And that was again Katy Vernon with 5 o'clock from her 2012 release, Before I Forget. And Joe had a wonderful comment that I wanted to make sure we got to
Hmm.
share, which is songs about this kind
Yeah,
of
it's very
internal
true.
struggle are sometimes a somber downer. The words here aren't optimistic, but the spirit sure is empowering. Must be the horn. Also love the EQ on the vocal. And
Yeah, the
yeah, thanks
the
for that, Joe.
vocal was a very deliberate choice that I wanted it to kind of sound like old-timey radio.
Hmm.
So we really cranked that, and you know, it's another ukulele song.
Hmm.
When we play this song, when I play it outdoors, there's always little kids dancing, like this is their favorite song, and they completely don't know what the words are about. So that's kind of the sad songs on a happy instrument feel, which
Yeah.
is a big part of my music.
Well, as a banjo player, I can relate to this fact
Yeah,
that, you can play sad songs on any instrument, even if they're known as
yeah,
happy instruments. So,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
and I want to make sure that folks know that if you want to dive deeper into the Katy Vernon catalog, into all of her great
Me
records,
too.
you can go to katyvernon.com. You can find tour dates, both for her solo shows and with her Abbott tribute band. Uh, you can order scrap mice, again, handmade for you or a friend, and also learn about her new band as well and the new music she has coming out. So, Katy, I want to thank you so much for
Thank
being for joining
you.
us today. This has been so
Thank you for
special.
doing this. I've been getting a bit nervous because we're suddenly having a crazy storm. Is it storming for
Well, right
you?
now the sun just came out, so it
Oh
was
my
like
gosh,
really
it's
dark,
such,
but you're east
yeah,
of us, so I think
we're
it probably
northeast, yeah.
passed us and went to you.
But we
But
didn't lose power. We hung in there. So thank
that's
you for
right.
doing this.
That's right. Well, we're so happy to have you here, and looks like Joni says, "Lovely show. Thank you for the I'm not sure what that was supposed to be backgrounds, Katy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what rushing is, but
Um, Thanks for another great show. Well, Joni, thank you for being here,
yeah, thank you, everybody.
again, if you like the episode, like it on YouTube, give the thumbs up, and direct more bots to Katy Vernon. And
Yeah.
also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be notified of which guest is coming up next. And we have so many great guests coming up, so you'll want to do that. And of course, our Patreon folks are the first to find out about who those guests are. So again, if you want to be on the inside track, you can join our Patreon. And Joni corrected us saying touching.
Oh, nice.
So the touching
Thank you.
stories, we want to thank Katy for sharing all of these kind of
Yeah.
yeah, really personal stories about what went into this song album in
Yeah.
particular, which is so special. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, and I hope all of you have a wonderful music filled week. From me and my co-host Anthony Ihrig, who couldn't be here this week, have a wonderful weekend. Katy, thank you so much for joining us, and to
Thank
all of you out
you.
there, cheers. Have a great weekend.
Cheers.